What's up, everybody? It's your boy Owl Production with the first episode of The Owl's Eye View. This is a new series on the channel. This is the first time any of y'all have heard me speak or do a video that's not a highlights in general. The thing I want to do with this series is commentate on different stuff, mostly MMA and boxing, but I think I'm gonna do some basketball as soon as the playoffs in the NBA start, and that will be soon. Videos will be mostly not me going into much details and analyzing, but mostly just me giving my thoughts on fights, nights, different matchups, championship fights, and similar stuff. So without further ado, let's get right into this. Today's topic, UFC 300, the big one. I'm not gonna be going through all the fights because there's like 15 fights, I think. I'm just gonna be going through the ones that interest me the most, not the best fights. There are some really good fights that will not be in this video, but the fights that intrigue me the most. And the first fight on that list is Jiri Prochazka against Alexander Rakic. In my opinion, this has the potential to be the fight of the night, but there's like 4 fights that have the potential to be fight of the night. Jiri lost his last fight to Alex Pereira and is going in as the underdog in this fight. Alexander Rakic's last fight is also a loss to Jan Blachowicz. So both fighters coming off of losses, looking for a big win, and whoever gets the win here, I think, is getting a title shot at light heavyweight against Jamal Hill or Alex Pereira, a fight that I'm going to get into later on in the video. In my opinion, this fight is as close as it gets. In my opinion, this fight can go either way. The only thing I'm sure of is this fight is not ending in anything except a knockout. I highly doubt this fight will end in a decision, much less in a submission or something else. But this fight is going to be a knockout. Both of them, as I said, coming off of losses. Both of them need a win, and both of them looking for their title shot after this fight. Jiri, with his unorthodox way of fighting, can propose a big threat to Alexander Rakic. But we've seen him against tough opponents, and he's just got that Serbian toughness, you know what I mean. If I had to pick one guy to win, I'd go Jiri by knockout. But as I said, I can see this fight going either way, so I wouldn't blame you if you went Rakic by knockout. Next up, Arman Tsarukyan against Charles Oliveira. This is the only fight where I can see it going any other way except a knockout, and I might see a submission here. Personally, I would bet on Charles Oliveira. He's going into this fight as the underdog, and I do believe Charles is still a top 2 guy in his division. I don't think Arman has faced anybody like Charles yet, and Charles has a lot more experience than him. These type of fights and these big time fights, and I do think Charles is gonna go away with a submission victory. I would personally say maybe in the second round. I think Arman has a lot of power, and I think that could pose a problem for Charles, but we have seen him in situations like that before, and we've seen him get out of those situations, so I think Charles is gonna walk away with a victory in this one. Next up is the fight a lot of people are picking to be the fight of the night, and that is Justin Gaethje against Max Holloway. Both coming off of great wins, amazing 2 strikers with a lot of experience behind them. This fight is definitely gonna be a spectacle to watch. With my pick to win this fight, I'm gonna go once again for the underdog, and I'm gonna go with Max Holloway to win by decision. I think both will have amazing striking against one another, and we'll see a lot of flashy knockdowns, but I do not think the fight will end in a knockout. I think it will be an all-out war between these 2 amazing fighters, and I think Max will walk away with a victory this one. Before I go over the main event, here are some fights I do want to go over. Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. Cody, the underdog, and I do love betting on the underdog, but I think Figueiredo is gonna outmatch him in this fight. Next up, Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Hurts me to say it, but I think Jim Miller will finish his career with a loss to Bobby Green. Jim obviously being the first and obviously the last fighter that's going to be featured on UFC 100, 200, and 300. It's going to be sad to see him go out with a loss, but still an amazing career. Next up, Kelvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Probably the easiest fight, in my opinion, to call on this fight night. Obviously going with Aljo by, in my opinion, whatever he wants that night. Not to underestimate Kelvin Kattar, but Aljo is still one of the best fighters in his division, if not the best. Last but not least, we have the main event of the evening. We have Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira. This is the fight that I'm personally most looking up to. I think both are great fighters, but if I had to pick fighter to win, I'm going with Alex Poatan Pereira with the knockout. Both relatively inexperienced UFC fighters. Alex Pereira with the record of 9-2 and Jamal Hill with the record of 12-1. I think Jamal Hill is an amazing fighter, but I do think he hasn't faced the type of competition that Alex Pereira has faced. Jamal Hill's most notable wins being against an out-of-prime Glover Teixeira, Thiago Santos, and Johnny Walker, while Alex Pereira has faced much tougher competition both in the UFC and in the light heavyweight division, beating guys like Jan Blachowicz, Jiri Prochazka, Israel Adesanya, and Sean Strickland. But I do think if Alex Pereira makes the mistake of underestimating Jamal Hill, he will be in trouble this night. I see this fight going either a knockout victory by Alex Pereira or a split decision to Jamal Hill. I think Jamal Hill has a lot of power, but not enough to knock out Alex Pereira. We've seen his chin in multiple fights. The only man that has been able to knock him out in the UFC is Israel Adesanya with an amazing overhand in their second UFC fight. But we have seen Alex Pereira's chin get tested in multiple fights, and we've seen him eat some pretty tough shots. So I do think that Jamal Hill's only way to win is by a split decision. But my pick will be going to an Alex Pereira win by knockout. I would say in the third or second round. So those are my prediction for UFC 300. When it's all said and done, I will make another video to talk about the fights, to break down the fights, to see what I got wrong, what I got right. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe. If you haven't already, tell me in the comments below if you agree with my picks, if you disagree, and why. And I'll see you in the next episode.